The silent defiance. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Senate stretched across 12 kilometers of crystallized space, floating in the neutral zone between three major star clusters. Representatives from 92 civilizations gathered, here every solar cycle, their forms ranging from gaseous beings contained in magnetic fields to silicon-based creatures that moved like living mountains. Yet for 200 years, one seat remained deliberately empty, the seat reserved for Earth. Ambassador Krelix adjusted his ceremonial robes with his forearms, his purple scales shifting colors to display his mounting frustration. The Vorthon representative had served in this position for 60 years, and throughout his entire career, humanity had never once responded to their invitations. Not a single human diplomat had ever set foot in these hallowed halls. The insult had grown from amusing to concerning, and now it had become intolerable. The current session focused on resource distribution across the Outer Rim territories, but Krelix could barely concentrate. His three eyes kept drifting to that empty seat, marked with Earth's designation in the universal script. The holographic nameplate flickered mockingly, a reminder of humanity's continuous rejection of galactic civilization. Around him, other representatives whispered in their various languages, all wondering the same thing. Why did Earth refuse to participate? Supreme Chancellor Thakros called for order, his massive frame casting shadows across the assembly. The Gorvak leader stood 9 feet tall, his rocky exterior crackling with bioelectric energy that showed his emotional state. Today, those energy patterns displayed clear annoyance. His voice boomed through the translator systems, reaching every being in their native language. Before we continue with today's agenda, I must address the situation that troubles us all. Earth's continued absence from these proceedings has gone from diplomatic oddity to calculated insult. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly, like waves across an ocean. The Zilani representative, a being of pure light energy, pulsed brighter as she spoke. 200 years of silence, Chancellor. We have sent 843 formal invitations, each one delivered through proper channels, each one confirmed as received by their communication systems. Yet not once have they even acknowledged our existence officially. The debate that followed lasted for 3 hours. Some representatives argued for patience, suggesting that humanity might still be adjusting to the reality of not being alone in the universe. Others pointed out that humans had achieved faster-than-light travel 70 years ago, which automatically qualified them for Senate membership. They had the technology, they had the knowledge. They simply chose not to engage. Intelligence Minister Vexhai, whose species possessed the most advanced surveillance technology in known space, presented disturbing findings to the assembly. The insectoid being's compound eyes reflected thousands of data streams as she spoke through clicking mandibles. Our deep space monitors have detected unusual activity in Earth's solar system. Construction projects of massive scale hidden behind their gas giants, energy signatures that don't match their reported technological level. They're building something, and they're keeping it secret from us. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Secret construction meant military preparation in most cases. Was Earth planning something? Had humanity decided that isolation wasn't enough? The questions multiplied faster than answers could be found. Chancellor Thakros made a decision that would change everything. I propose we send a diplomatic enforcement fleet to Earth. 1,000 ships to demonstrate the unity and power of the Galactic Senate. They will see that continued isolation is not an option. The vote passed with overwhelming majority. Only 3 species voted against it, arguing that forcing contact violated the principles of free choice that the Senate supposedly upheld. But fear and wounded pride had already taken hold. Within hours, orders went out across the galaxy. Ships from dozens of worlds began gathering at the staging point near the Kepler Junction. Meanwhile, in a facility buried beneath the Antarctic ice on Earth, Commander Sarah Chen watched the alien communications with grim satisfaction. The hidden, monitoring station had been intercepting Galactic Senate transmissions for decades, learning their languages, understanding their politics, and most importantly, preparing for this exact moment. She turned to her team of analysts and engineers. all of whom had spent their entire careers preparing for first contact on humanity's terms. They voted for the enforcement fleet, Chen announced to the room. 1,000 ships, just as our predictive models suggested. How long until they reach our system? Lieutenant Marcus Webb checked his calculations on displays that showed technology far beyond what Earth officially possessed. 48 hours at their standard faster-than-light speeds, Commander. Should we activate the contingency protocols? Chen nodded slowly, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that connected her to hidden facilities across the solar system and beyond. Send the activation codes to all shadow colonies. Inform the Mars shipyards to bring the Ghost Fleet online and contact the Jupiter station. Tell them to prepare the gravity well generators. For 2 centuries, humanity had played a careful game. Every piece of alien technology that fell to Earth had been studied, improved, and integrated into secret development programs. While the galaxy thought humans were barely spacefaring, Earth had actually colonized 37 star systems using breakthrough propulsion technology that made alien faster-than-light drives look primitive. The difference was that humanity had done it all in complete secrecy, using sophisticated cloaking technology and careful misdirection. The decision to skip all galactic meetings hadn't been born from fear or ignorance. It had been a calculated strategy based on careful observation of how the Galactic Senate operated. They claimed to promote equality and cooperation, but their history showed a pattern of absorbing smaller civilizations and slowly stripping them of their independence. Member species were required to share all technology, follow universal laws that favored the founding races, and contribute resources to collective projects that mainly benefited the core worlds. Humanity had watched from the shadows as 3 newer species had joined the Senate over the past century. Within 50 years, each had lost their unique cultural identity. Their resources had been redistributed, and their homeworlds had become little more than tourist destinations for wealthier species. Earth's leaders had decided that humanity would forge its own path, even if it meant appearing primitive and isolated. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading xenobiologist, had studied every piece of data about the various alien species. She knew their strengths, their weaknesses, and most importantly, their assumptions about humanity. Her research had shaped Earth's defense strategy. They think we're prideful children refusing to join the adults' table, she had written in her classified reports. Let them think that. Their arrogance will be their weakness. The preparation had been meticulous. Every human colony was hidden using technology that bent light and space around entire star systems. The shipyards around Mars had produced vessels that incorporated the best of human innovation and carefully acquired alien technology. The weapons platforms hidden throughout the solar system used principles of physics that humanity had discovered independently, principles that the galactic community hadn't even theorized yet. As the enforcement fleet assembled near the Kepler Junction, Admiral Zoriak of the Hegemony Navy took command of the massive Armada. The 4-armed warrior had never lost a diplomatic enforcement mission. His ships had brought 12 reluctant species into the Senate fold, using overwhelming displays of power to show them the futility of resistance. Earth would be no different, he assured the Senate. Primitive humans with their chemical rockets and basic fusion reactors would take one look at his fleet and surrender immediately. The 1,000 ships that gathered represented the might of 92 civilizations. Dreadnoughts the size of cities, carriers that held thousands of fighter craft and siege platforms that could crack moons in half. It was the largest enforcement fleet ever assembled for a single planet. Some representatives questioned if it was overkill for dealing with a species that had barely colonized their own moon. But Chancellor Thakros had insisted on making an example. Earth's defiance had gone on too long. Back on Earth, Commander Chen stood in the command center watching as humanity's true military might came online for the first time. Hidden bases on moons throughout the solar system revealed themselves, each one bristling with weapons that used quantum entanglement for instantaneous targeting. The Ghost Fleet, 5,000 strong, powered up their drives in perfect synchronization. Ships that could phase in and out of regular space, making them virtually untouchable by conventional weapons. All stations report ready, Commander, Lieutenant Webb announced. The Jupiter gravity wells are charged and standing by. The asteroid belt kinetic platforms are locked and loaded, and the surprise from Saturn Station is ready for deployment. Chen smiled coldly. Saturn Station had been humanity's greatest achievement, a weapon that weaponized space-time itself, creating controlled black holes that could be directed at specific targets. It had never been tested in actual combat, but simulations suggested it could swallow entire fleets in seconds. Send a message to all human forces, both public and shadow colonies. Tell them the masquerade is about to end. 200 years of preparation comes down to the next 48 hours, the revelation of humanity. The enforcement fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system with perfect military precision. 1,000 ships arranged in a sphere formation designed to be visible from Earth's surface with basic telescopes. Admiral Zoriak wanted humanity to see exactly what they faced. The psychological impact of such overwhelming force usually ended conflicts before they began. On his command bridge, surrounded by the finest officers from 15 different species, Admiral Zoriak studied the tactical displays with growing confusion. The energy readings from Earth's solar system were completely wrong. Instead of the primitive electromagnetic signatures they expected, their sensors detected power sources that rivaled small stars. Structures that shouldn't exist according to their intelligence reports appeared throughout the system. "What am I looking at, Science Officer Krex?" Zoriak demanded, his forearms gesturing at the impossible readings. The Valari scientist's tentacles writhed in confusion as she analyzed the data. "Admiral, these readings suggest Earth has somehow achieved controlled antimatter production on an industrial scale. The energy signatures near their moon indicate they're running reactors that shouldn't be possible with their level of technology. And there's something else." She paused, her color changing to indicate extreme concern. "We're detecting spatial distortions throughout the system. It's as if space itself has been weaponized." Before Zoriak could respond, his communications officer interrupted. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's on all frequencies, in all Senate languages simultaneously." The main view screen activated, showing a human woman in a black uniform standing in what appeared to be a highly advanced command center. Behind her, displays showed tactical positions of forces that the fleet's sensors hadn't even detected yet. Commander Sarah Chen's expression was calm, almost serene, as she addressed the alien armada. "Admiral Zoriak of the Galactic Senate Enforcement Fleet, I am Commander Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Command. You are currently surrounded by 5,000 vessels using technology your sensors cannot fully detect. You have entered a solar system protected by weapons that manipulate fundamental forces your science hasn't discovered yet. But before this escalates into unnecessary bloodshed, I invite you to a discussion. One ship, your command vessel alone, may approach Earth. You have 1 hour to decide." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Surrounded. Their sensors showed empty space around them. But even as Zoriak ordered intensive scans, ships began appearing like ghosts becoming solid. They emerged from folded space, from behind cloaking fields that bent reality itself, from dimensions that the galactic community didn't know could be accessed. Within minutes, the 1,000-ship enforcement fleet found itself surrounded by 5 times their number. The human ships defied conventional design philosophy. Where alien vessels were massive and imposing, Earth's ships were sleek, almost organic in their curves. They seemed to shimmer in and out of existence, as if they weren't entirely present in normal space. Weapons ports that violated known physics glowed with contained energies that made veteran officers nervous. "How is this possible?" Admiral Zoriak muttered, his warrior's pride warring with tactical reality. "Earth barely achieved spaceflight 300 years ago. This level of technology should have taken millennia to develop." His strategic advisor, a crystalline being named Vorast, pulsed with troubled light patterns. "Admiral, perhaps humanity's isolation wasn't born from primitive pride. What if they stayed away because they were preparing for this exact scenario? 200 years is a long time to develop technology in secret, especially if they were reverse engineering our own transmissions and any technology that found its way to their system." The implications were staggering. If Earth had spent 2 centuries preparing specifically to counter Galactic Senate technology, then this enforcement fleet had sailed into a carefully prepared trap. Zoriak made a decision that would define the rest of his career. Prepare my personal shuttle. I'll meet with this Commander Chen, but if anything happens to me, the fleet is to withdraw immediately. An hour later, Admiral Zoriak's shuttle approached Earth, escorted by a dozen human fighters that seemed to phase in and out of reality. The planet below looked exactly as the old survey reports had described, blue and green with white clouds. But the orbital space around it told a different story. Massive stations that dwarfed anything in Senate space hung in perfect formation. Defense platforms that could target objects at faster-than-light speeds tracked his shuttle's every movement. The shuttle landed at a facility in Antarctica that didn't appear on any of their maps. As Zoriak emerged, he found himself facing not just Commander Chen, but representatives from what appeared to be dozens of human nations. The conference room they entered was a masterpiece of architecture that somehow incorporated design elements from across the galaxy, suggesting humanity had been studying alien cultures far longer than anyone had suspected. Admiral Zoriak, Commander, Chen began once everyone was seated. Before we begin, I want you to understand something. Humanity didn't ignore your invitations out of arrogance or fear. We stayed away because we learned from history, both ours and yours. She activated a holographic display that showed the Galactic Senate's formation and growth over millennia. Your Senate began with noble intentions: cooperation, peace, shared prosperity. But over time it became something else. New species that join lose their autonomy within a century. Their resources are redistributed to benefit the core worlds. Their unique technologies are absorbed and standardized. Their cultures become tourist attractions, Zoriak wanted to argue, but the data Chen presented was uncomfortably accurate. She continued, her voice carrying the weight of careful consideration. Humanity spent 50 years debating whether to join after we discovered we weren't alone. We studied every transmission, every piece of history we could intercept, and we came to a conclusion. The Galactic Senate, despite its intentions, had become an empire that consumed diversity in the name of unity. So you chose isolation? Zoriak asked, his forearms gesturing confusion. You developed all this in secret rather than share in the benefits of galactic civilization? Dr. Yuki Tanaka, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. We chose independence, Admiral, but not isolation. Would you like to know the truth about humanity's last 2 centuries? The display changed, showing star systems the Senate had never mapped. Hidden colonies spread across 37 worlds, each one cloaked using technology that bent space around entire solar systems. Shipyards that produced vessels using principles that combined human innovation with carefully studied alien concepts. Research stations that had solved problems the Senate's scientists hadn't even identified yet. We expanded carefully, quietly, Chen explained. Every world we colonized was chosen specifically because it was outside your monitoring range. We developed technology that leapfrogged yours because we weren't constrained by your standardization requirements. We created defense systems that could counter your specific weapons because we studied them for 2 centuries. The revelation that humanity had been building a hidden interstellar civilization stunned Zoriak. The implications for galactic politics were staggering. If one species could do this, how many others might be out there developing in secret beyond the Senate's reach? But why reveal yourselves now? Zoriak asked. You could have remained hidden. Chen smiled, the first genuine warmth she'd shown. Because isolation, even strategic isolation, has limits. Humanity is ready to engage with the galaxy, but on equal terms. Not as a subordinate member of your Senate, but as an independent power that can choose cooperation without sacrificing sovereignty. She stood and walked to the window that overlooked the frozen landscape. Your enforcement fleet was meant to intimidate us into submission. Instead, it's become an opportunity. Return to your Senate with this message. Earth offers trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense agreements with any species that respects our independence. But we will never accept subordination to a system that erases what makes each species unique. Admiral Zoriak considered her words carefully. His warrior's mind could see the tactical situation clearly. Earth's forces could likely destroy his entire fleet if they chose. But more than that, humanity's secret expansion meant they could wage asymmetric warfare across the galaxy, from hidden bases the Senate didn't even know existed. Fighting them would be like fighting shadows that struck from nowhere. "You're proposing a fundamental change to how the galaxy operates," he said slowly. "The Senate won't accept it easily." "Then perhaps it's time for the Senate to evolve," Dr. Tanaka suggested. "How many species have you absorbed who might have contributed more if they'd been allowed to develop independently? How many unique solutions to universal problems have been lost to standardization?" The discussion continued for 6 hours. Chen and her team presented their vision of a galaxy where cooperation didn't require conformity, where species could maintain their independence while still working together on mutual challenges. They showed technologies humanity had developed that could benefit everyone, but only if Earth retained control over how they were implemented. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Zoriak made a decision that surprised even himself. "I'll carry your message to the Senate, and I'll add my own recommendation that they consider it seriously. But understand, this won't be easy. The established powers have too much invested in the current system." Chen nodded. "We know. That's why we're also transmitting our offer directly to every member species. Let them decide for themselves if they want to continue under the Senate's control or explore new possibilities." As Zoriak's shuttle departed, he looked back at Earth with new respect. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war. They'd prepared to reshape galactic civilization itself. The 1,000 warships that had come to enforce compliance were leaving as witnesses to a new possibility. The silent defiance of 2 centuries had been strategic patience, waiting for the right moment to reveal that humanity had already changed. The game. Back in the Antarctic Command Center, Commander Chen watched the enforcement fleet begin its withdrawal. Lieutenant Webb approached with a status report. "All 37 colonies have dropped their cloaking fields, Commander. We're receiving communications from 18 species requesting direct diplomatic contact, bypassing the Senate entirely." Chen smiled. The real victory wasn't in the military standoff, but in demonstrating that there were alternatives to the established order. Earth had refused to attend the galactic meetings not out of disrespect, but because humanity had been preparing to host meetings of their own. The 1,000 warships had come expecting to find a primitive world refusing to join civilization. Instead, they'd found a new power that offered the galaxy something it hadn't realized it needed: choice. The transformation of galactic politics wouldn't happen overnight. There would be resistance, conflicts, and challenges ahead. But humanity had proven that 200 years of strategic silence could speak louder than any words. The stars themselves seemed to tremble with possibility, as Earth took its place not as a subordinate member of someone else's empire, but as an architect of a new galactic future. Epilogue. 6 months after the enforcement fleet's withdrawal, the first Independent Worlds Conference convened on Earth. 23 species sent representatives, some openly, others in secret. The Galactic Senate condemned the gathering, but their threats rang hollow. Earth's revelation had inspired other species to question why they accepted subordination when independence was possible. Commander Chen, now Earth's first ambassador to the independent world, stood before the assembled delegates. "We gather not in defiance of unity, but in celebration of diversity. Let each world, each species, each culture contribute their unique strengths without losing what makes them special." The 1,000 warships that had come to enforce conformity had instead witnessed the birth of a new age. Earth's response to 2 centuries of ignored invitations hadn't been silence after all. It had been preparation for a conversation the galaxy desperately needed to have. And as more species began to question the old order, the stars themselves seemed to pulse with the promise of change.